One of the best ways to wake up in the morning is to the sound of birds. So I'm going to show you how to make a birdhouse for your feathered friends. What you're going to need first is some PVA glue, a damp cloth, a 1.5mm drill bit, some eyelets, chain, 25mm bullet head nails, a combination square, hammer, tape measure, and if you don't have a measuring tape, you can use a ruler, sanding block, a dovetail saw, long nose pliers, spatula, hole saw, spade bit, some filler, a cordless drill, pencil, some 15mm pre-cut ply and 12mm dowel, a scrap bit of timber and a clamp. Now kids, this is a project where you are going to need some adult help, but let me show you how it's done. I've cut all the plywood for our birdhouse, but you can get your local hardware store to do it for you. What you're going to need is the base, which is 130 by 100mm. Then the two sides, 130 by 130. The ends, 125 by 130. And then I'm just cutting an angle on them, so that creates the pitch for the roof, which is 205 by 130, and the other side, 120 by 205. And then it's as easy as just folding it all up, gluing and nailing together, and you have yourself a birdhouse. The first thing we're going to do is cut the angle for the roof and the hole for the front of the birdhouse. I'm going to do the back piece first, so I'll clamp it to the table, and then using the dovetail saw, I'll cut it out. I've just marked the center point of my timber, then I'm using my combination square to mark that on a 45 degree to each edge. Then use the dovetail saw to cut it out. If you're just starting out, this is one of the safest saws to use because you can put two hands on it, which means there's no chance of cutting any of your fingers. And repeat this on the front and back of the birdhouse. Once your cuts are done, just sand them off so they're nice and smooth. Now, I'm going to make a hole for the bird and a hole for the perch. And to do that, you're going to need to get a scrap bit of timber, the front of your birdhouse, clamp that down, mark out where you want your hole. For the bird hole, I've measured up from the bottom 105mm, and for the perch hole, I've come up from the bottom 55mm. But there's no stress here, you can put your holes wherever you like. And then using a hole saw, we're going to put it in a cordless drill and drill it out. All right, now it's onto the perch hole. And for the perch hole, I'm using a 12mm spade bit. And again, just sanding off to smooth out the edges. All right, we're ready to put this birdhouse together. So what I'm going to do is pre-drill some holes wherever I'm putting the nails, which is all around the edges. Once that's done, I'm going to use some glue on the inside, then join the two pieces together and nail it off. How easy is that? Now it's time to put some glue on and nail this birdhouse together. And a good tip, if you're not too confident on the hammer, just use some long nose pliers to hold the nail in place until you get it started. Now our birdhouse is together, I'm just using some wood filler and a spatula to cover the nail holes. All right, all done. Now, while we wait for that to dry, I'll set it aside and we can cut the dowel for our perch. So how long do I want my perch to be? Well, let's have a look. Well, I definitely think that's too long. So let's measure, and I think around the 60 or 70mm will be perfect. Let's go with that. Now our perch is cut, it's been about 20 minutes, which means our wood filler should be dry, so we can start sanding. All right, with the sanding done, the only thing left to do is glue in our perch. With the PVA glue, just glue around the rim of the hole and then using your perch, slide it in place. Once the glue's dried, it won't be going anywhere.
Wow, Adam, that looks amazing.
Hey, Jax, good timing. Yeah, it looks good, but I'm thinking it's a bit plain.
Oh, don't worry, I've got some great decorating ideas. I'm definitely going to give this house a makeover.
Awesome. Well, after you're done with that, I've got eyelets here and some chain. You can hang it up.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Adam. I'll
No
see
worries.
you later.
Good luck.
Hey, I'm Jacqui and I'm an artist here on Get Arty, and my favourite thing to do is craft. My advice would be stick to colours you like and patterns you like, and be patient.
Adam has made this cute little birdhouse, but it's looking a little bit plain. I'm going to turn it from blur to yeah. Any little birdie will want to move in. What you'll need is a ruler, a lead pencil, a craft knife, some scissors, a sponge, mini pliers, some outdoor craft glue, some strips of white and black cardboard, some pattern cardboard, and of course the eyelets and chain that Adam gave me. Now the first step is to make sure your birdhouse is nice and smooth for the gluing, and luckily for me, Adam's already sanded it down. So it's time to start on the roof. Using the strips of black and white paper, I'm going to make a nice stripy pattern. And I've already pre-cut them to 1 centimetre in width. So what you'll need to do is add a stripe of glue and then one of your strips of paper and fold it under the awning, and then repeat with the rest. Now just make sure you get plenty of glue under the awning and on the walls of the birdhouse, so when you fold the roof over, it will stick down. But sometimes they spring off, so you might need to use a bit more glue. And do the same on the other side. Now with the very top 2 pieces of cardboard, they're not going to be able to fold under the roof. So grab your scissors, fold it down and cut along the roof line. Do it again with the other side and just glue them down. Cover the roof with a really good layer of thick glue. This is going to protect your cardboard from the rain. Now I'm going to let the roof dry because it makes putting the wallpaper on a lot easier. You don't get messy glue everywhere. So I'm going to let that dry for about an hour. Roof is dry, time to start the wallpaper. Now just get your ruler and measure up your sides. So that's 12.5 centimetres. It's always good to write down your measurements. By 16 centimetres. Now I'll put him to the side. I'm going to use this really cool triangle paper on my side walls. And then you just measure it up. So it was 12.5 by 16. That's a good idea to measure up on the opposite side to your paper so you get no pencil marks on your finished product. Draw down and across. Now make sure you measure that out twice because you have 2 side walls. Time to cut it out. Now the 2 sides are done, it's time to do the front and back. Now this can be a little bit trickier because there's a peak, a big triangle at the top, but I'm going to give you a little tip on how to measure it up properly. So just get your ruler and measure the bottom. That's 12 centimetres. Then rule up the other side, just where the roof starts. That's 12 centimetres again. Now to do the hard part, the triangle part, just rule across and measure half of the 12 centimetres. That's 6 centimetres. And now measure the very top to the bottom. Get your ruler right up in the roof. That's 19 centimetres. Time to measure it out on the paper. So we'll start with our 12 centimetre box. Draw that along. Now measure across the top line of the box, the halfway point, which is 6 centimetres. Now, get your ruler to the edge of the page, make sure it lines up with your 6 centimetre dot, and mark out 19 centimetres at the top. That's your peak. So you just need to draw from the top of the peak down to the corner of the cube, and it will give you that nice triangle. There you go, now it's time to cut it out. So there's our back panel, and here's the best thing. You can just trace around this for your front panel. So I'm going to use some really cool pineapples at the front. Now you can't just cut that out and stick it on because you've got a perch and a front door. So we're going to have to draw those into the paper and use our craft knife to cut them out. So again, you just measure from the bottom of the perch to the bottom of the birdhouse. That's 5.5 centimetres. And then measure the diameter of your perch. Mine's 1 centimetre. So a little bit more measuring. Measure from the bottom of the perch to the front door. That's about 1.5 centimetres. And then measure the diameter of the front door. That's 4.5 centimetres. So now it's time to mark it on the paper. You will need to start with measuring your 6 centimetre halfway point. That will mean that your circle and your perch are in the middle. So measure up 5.5 centimetres. And then my diameter of my perch was 1 centimetre, so I'll make a mark there. That's going to be our little circle. So mark either side. And there's our cross. And draw it around. That is our perch. So then we need to mark up 1.5 centimetres to the front door, and then 4.5. And then do it again on the other side. And there's your other circle. Now just grab your craft knife. Be careful, these are sharp. Have an adult around and cut your circles out. Now don't worry if your circle's not perfect, we'll tidy it up once it's glued onto the birdhouse. Let's get cutting. And you guessed it, it's time to glue them all on. And just like the roof, slap a thick layer of glue all over the walls and let it dry. Awesome, that is nice and dry. Now we're up to our final step before we hang it. We need to screw our eyelets in and then hang our chain. You're gonna have to open up the last bit of chain with your pliers. You might need an adult to do that because it can be a bit tough. And there we have it, a gorgeous birdhouse. Now all we have to do is find the perfect place to hang it for my birdie friends.
Some people dream of having their name up in lights, but I'm going to show you one better, and that's your name in pom-poms. Here's what you'll need: cardboard letters, paint. I've chosen white paint, but you can use any kind of colour. Paintbrush, wool of any colour. I've chosen real bright colours so my name can pop. A hot glue gun, a fork, and a pair of scissors. And something to keep your table clean. I'm just using a couple pieces of paper. Our first step is to paint our letters. Make sure you paint all the edges, and it's gonna get a little messy. All done, now set them aside to dry. So, to make the pom-poms, there are lots of different methods. Today, we're gonna be using the fork method because I want mine teensy tiny pom-poms. Grab your wool and measure out 18 centimetres. Now place in the middle prong of your fork. Grab your wool and start wrapping it around. Make sure you catch the first thread a few times. Once that's in place, you can just keep wrapping around 20 to 50 times, depending on how big you want your pom-pom to be. Okay, Leave a bit of a tail. Now we'll cut that off, and with the leftover wool, we're gonna tuck that around the back where the wool's wrapped. Now with the first piece of wool that we put there before, we're gonna tie a knot around all the wrapped wool, nice and tight. Now place it back through so we can tie a knot on the other side. Trim off the excess. Now cut the sides, and this is what creates the pom-pom effect. Do this on both sides. And there we have it, our first pom-pom. Ruffle it up a little bit, and we can repeat this step in different colours. I think I've got enough, and my letters are dry. To attach the pom-poms, we're gonna use a hot glue gun. Remember, the hot glue gun is hot, and we don't need to use too much. Make sure you pack your pom-poms nice and tight. We don't want any spaces in between. And make sure you keep a good mix of colours. Okay, all done. Now it's time to tidy up and find the perfect place to hang these.
Today I'm going to show you a really simple yet glamorous project. All you will need are some feathers, some twine, a thinner one and a thicker one, a stick, white floral tape, gold paint, a paintbrush, some gold glitter, and scissors. With my feathers, I've used white turkey feathers because they have a nice wide and flat end, but you can use any feathers that you like. Alright, so the first step is to paint your stick gold. Now I'm just going to get my gold paint and add a bit to my plate. Going to paint my stick. You just need a thin layer of gold paint. Just making sure to cover the whole surface. Okay, so that's good. Now we'll just put it outside to dry. For the next step, we're just going to paint the tips of our feathers. So I'm going to add some more paint and then some glitter on the other side of the plate. I'm just going to dip the tips of my feather into the paint and then just lightly coat it. And just wipe off the excess with the brush. And now dip the feather into the gold glitter. And once the tip of the feather is coated with glitter, you just set it aside to dry. Now repeat with the rest of the feathers. And now once you've done your 5 feathers, you just have to set it aside to dry. It'll at least take 24 hours. So now that all my feathers are dried, it's time to tie on the string. Make sure that each string is of a different length. Cut the white floral tape. So now I'm just going to stick the end of the feather and the end of the twine together and then just roll it around the stem of the feather. And there you have your first feather, ready to be attached. Just repeat the process until you've done all the feathers. Now I'm just going to make the top hanger part. The length of twine should be as long as your stick and then an extra 20 centimeters. I think that should do it. Cut. Tie the ends of the branches with the thicker piece of twine. So I'm going to do a double knot just to make sure it's nice and secure. And now flip it over to tie it onto the other side. I'm just arranging my feathers to see how they look, making sure that they're at different lengths. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now, start tying. So a double knot for this one as well. Now trim off the excess. Okay, now that we're done, it's time to hang it up. It's such a pretty project that you can hang it inside or out.